Hey everyone, welcome back to Room 237, and as I've said in my recent plans for 2021 video, I said I wanted to start getting into doing reviews for films of another one of my all-time favorite genres of film, or subgenres, the crime, true crime, drama, specifically the gangster film. Which the only one I've reviewed at this point was the Tom Hardy Capone film. That was just because I redboxed it and felt like reviewing it. And I don't know if it's going to be a marathon or just here and there, but always loved gangster films. I have done a collection video that's uploaded, so feel free to check that out. Got my Goodfellas picture here. And so this is going to be the first real review of a gangster flick. And I figured, why not just start with the last one that I most recently rewatched. That is the 2015 film by Scott Cooper, Black Mass, starring Johnny Depp as the very notorious and feared Boston Irish mob boss, James Whitey Bulger. I also have the book Black Mass by Dick Lair and Gerard O'Neill. Now, this is not the first movie to be about Whitey Bulger. In fact, another one that's probably even more popular and probably even more positively received would be Martin Scorsese's The Departed. But this is very loosely based on not just Whitey Bulger, but the whole alliance and informant relationship with the FBI. Even this is a remake of a Hong Kong film called Internal Affairs. Either a show or a movie called Brotherhood with Jason Clarke and Jason Isaac is loosely based on Bulger as well. Two brothers, one mob boss, one politician. But I think this is the one that is mostly more fact-based on, by name, Whitey Bulger, his associates, the FBI, his life, and everything. This has a very sordid history, but before I get into that, I remember when I first saw a trailer for this, because I think this got like a October or November, actually I have it right here. I think it was October 2015 when it came to theaters. September 18th. So it's probably early 2015 I saw a trailer. And I was already a huge fan of gangster flicks, fan of Johnny Depp, have been for a long time. So when I saw Depp was doing a Whitey Bulger film, and plus I just thought it looked like a good movie anyway, I was super stoked. And I waited all year till September to see it. I did see it in theaters, and I was blown away by it. I've watched it 2 or 3 times since, including just the other night when I rewatched it. And I'm still blown away by it. I still think it's a magnificent movie. Some of its detractors do say that it's trying too hard to be Goodfellas, with some scenes being direct ripoffs, which I could see. Maybe some of the music and some of the scenes being a little too heavy for it, which I can see, but I also love the music to it. But honestly, this is my favorite Johnny Depp movie. This is my favorite Johnny Depp performance. And I know this came out at a time where Johnny Depp was not doing so well. Doing better than he is now, but you know, he had just done like Lone Ranger, that whatever, a Mordecai movie, whatever that is that everyone hated. I think being kicked off of, or fired from the Pirates movies or whatever. Johnny Depp was not doing well when this came out, or when this was being made. And this mixes two things that Johnny Depp is known for. A true story crime movie and being unrecognizable under makeup. So it blends those, and he, in my opinion, this is his strongest, best, and my favorite performance. Johnny Depp is terrifying in this as Whitey Bulger. And I mean, before I saw this, my favorite movie of his was Blow, where he played George Young. That was my favorite performance before I saw this. Now, this has a sordid history. It was going to be made several times. I mean, I think as early back as like 2000. Different people were going to be, like Jim Sheridan was going to direct. Russell Gurwitz, Barry Levinson, then eventually Scott Cooper. Johnny Depp was involved as early back as 2013. I guess Guy Pearce was originally going to play his brother Billy Bulger, but that went to Benedict Cumberbatch. Excuse me. Jesse Plemmons, who played Kevin Weeks. It was filmed in Boston, and I guess a lot of Bostonians, while they were filming this, they thought Depp looked so much like Bulger that a lot of people got like flashbacks and thought it was actually him, thought he had come back. There was one associate named John Shea, who was nicknamed John Red Shea, who worked closely with Depp, but when he first saw him, he almost attacked Depp. Like, he knew it was an actor, but just he looked so much like Bulger that it brought all that out in him. Now, for those that don't know, Whitey Bulger was born in 1928 or 29, I think 29. He had two younger brothers, one of which became senator. They did very well in school while he turned to a life of crime. He did a near 10-year stint in Alcatraz in the 50s or 60s. And when he got out, he formed the Winter Hill Gang in South Boston and was involved in racketeering, drugs, vending machines. He won the lottery twice by, finding out who won, taking it from them, and that's how he would say he earned his illegal money. And then, I think it was as early as 1975, a childhood friend of his brother Billy, John Connelly, who had joined the FBI, had come back to Boston and sort of had the idea to, clean up the hometown, but he really wanted to take down the Italian Mafia, and by doing that, he made this legendary alliance with Whitey Bulger by making him an informant. And by making him an informant, he kind of turned a blind eye and let him get away with a lot of stuff, way more than he should have, even by anyone's standards. And it really just created this terror-filled city of Boston under his reign for a number of years. Actually, 20 years, if it's as early as 75, because he fled Boston for the last time in 1995. And then everyone around him got prosecuted. and he, he was on the run for 16 years, spending 12 of those years on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list until he was caught in 2011 in a parking garage. I know I could have said spoiler alert, but I mean, I guess I find it hard to say spoilers for a fact-based story, like, especially with something as recent as this. Of course, this came out 3 years, almost to the day, a month shy of 3 years of when Whitey Bulger was actually killed on October 30th, 2018 in Oklahoma prison the day after he arrived. Bludgeoned to death by this other inmate at the age of 89. But, okay, so that's the history of Whitey Bulger. But this movie doesn't really do the life of kind of true story. Like, it doesn't start with him in his childhood, with how he started in crime, his rise, his fall, his capture. It doesn't have that rise and fall narrative that a lot of these films have. It's sort of bookended with the interrogations and the testimonies of his closest associates, Kevin Weeks, Stephen Flemmi, and I always get this guy's name mixed up, John Martirano. Yeah. Johnny Martirano, who is like his head hitman, played by W. Earl Brown. Rory Cochran, the pothead, pot leaf shirt stoner from Dazed Confused. He plays Stephen Flemmi, his right-hand man. Jesse Plemmons plays this younger associate, almost like a protege of Bulger's. Then we have Joel Edgerton as John Connelly, and Benedict Cumberbatch as his brother Billy. And also Kevin Bacon as Charles McGuire, an FBI higher-up. Adam Scott, another FBI worker, agent. Dakota Johnson as Bulger's lawful wife, or common law wife. And this movie is an actor's movie. I mean, that is the highlight of this film, is all the performances are flawless. Absolutely. I'm not even a fan of a Dakota Johnson outside of the Suspiria remake, but she does well in this. Johnny Depp is absolutely terrifying and intimidating. I will say, I mean, growing up and living in Maine, New England, every time I see a movie, even in The Departed, the Boston accent, the New England accent is always butchered terribly. I mean, even DiCaprio and Jack Nicholson in this can't do the accent. Damon and Wahlberg can, because they're from the area, but in this, everyone seems to have it pretty well. I mean, Joel Edgerton and Cumberbatch are English, and they got the accents down pretty well, at least I thought. So, Jesse Plemons, I had never really seen him before, and I haven't seen him again other than The Irishman. He plays a son of Hoffa. It opens up with him saying, before we start, I want to say, I'm not a rat. I thought his accent was just fine. So, all the performances, even with the accents, flawless. This is one of those actor movies. And again, Johnny Depp is just... And a lot of people say he got robbed from the Oscar for this. I don't know how true this is. I go with it because, it sounds perfectly plausible. it was pretty much guaranteed he was going to get a nomination for this. And I read somewhere that he had pretty much said, I don't wish to be nominated. I don't really care to win for this character. So they just kind of overlooked him and went on to someone else in place of a nomination. I'm sure people will disagree just because it's the internet and it's a day that ends with Y. But I read that somewhere. I don't remember the source, but I find it highly strange that he didn't get a nomination, and that story seems just as likely as any, so fine. I know I'm almost 15 minutes in, but I haven't really talked about the story yet, but so it's bookended with the testimonies of Weeks, Flemmi, and Martirano. And we jump back to 1975 with him and Connelly sort of reconnecting, starting this alliance, and then we work our way forward. We don't show his stint in Alcatraz. We barely talk about it. He talks about it to this one elderly lady. He has, I think it was Steven, stop the car. He gets out, hugs her, has, his guys help her with the groceries. It tries to establish him as this very loving, worshipped figure in Boston. And then at the end we find out the whole city pretty much knew the kind of monster he was. And yeah, it's basically just a collection of scenes as time goes on, from 1975 to 81, then 82, then I think 85, and then 95. And then we jump ahead to 2011 when he got caught in the parking garage. But we see him as the small-time kind of racketeer boss who's at war with the Angiulo family, the Italians in Boston. He helps Connelly take them down, and he becomes the kingpin of Boston. All the while, Kevin Bacon and Connelly's higher-ups just want to get Whitey Bulger out of the picture. Connelly keeps making it sound like he's retired or he's small time. Italians are, they're the bigger fish, they're the bigger picture. And eventually, it does show sort of a change in Connelly. He starts to dress more expensively, more sharper, have more confidence. He really starts to kind of see Whitey as a friend, as sort of a novelty that could kind of, I guess make him feel big in his own life. We do see the death of Whitey's young son, who died of Rye's disease. I think it was Rye's disease, when he was very young, a young child. And then Dakota Johnson's out of the picture. I think they just split up in real life. But a lot of the scenes are just Johnny Depp being intimidating as a fuck. Which I will say, the real Whitey Bulger hated Johnny Depp's portrayal of him. He hated this whole movie. If he even saw it, he either he saw it and he hated it, or he refused to see it and he kind of heard what it was about, but he hated it regardless. The real life Kevin Weeks had said the only thing that the movie got right was the hairline, because Johnny Depp, they do portray him as sort of this R-rated Scorsese kind of fucking, you motherfucking type character. And Kevin Weeks had said, what in real life, Whitey never swore at them. never really raised his voice or shouted. There's a scene where he has to kill Deborah Hussey, who was a young prostitute, who was also Stephen Flemy's stepdaughter, which he had an affair with. And he's kind of giving Stevie hell for, having an affair with his stepdaughter. And he's, it's the "don't correct me, Stevie" scene. Because he says daughter, and he's like, she's my stepdaughter. He's like, don't you fucking correct me, Stevie. Don't you fucking correct me, not now. Weeks said he never would have talked down to or berated Stevie in real life because Stevie was a psychopath and probably would have, gone after Whitey. But, I mean, you look at pictures of Whitey from the 70s where he has the, where he has the sunglasses and the jacket and the hair. They got it right. I mean, that alone looks just like Whitey. And then just those pale blue contacts that he wears with that bleach hair. I mean, he's almost unrecognizable. The scene that gets compared most to Goodfellas would be the steak marinade. Because Whitey brings in Stevie to come along with him on this FBI alliance. Connelly brings in his associate, John Morris. So they have Bulger and Flemmy over for dinner, and Morris cooks steak. And Whitey asks him what he used for marinade. And at first he toys with him, and he's like, I can't tell you, it's a family secret. He's like, come on, tell me. So then he tells him. And then he flips. And he's like, no, you said it was a family secret. You gave it up just like that. Today it's steak marinade. Tomorrow you could be given, what else are you going to tell people? And it's this very tense moment that builds up to him sort of laughing at me and like, I'm just fucking with you. It gets compared to the "How Am I Funny" scene in Goodfellas, which I can see. And I mean, yeah, it does kind of feel like it wants to be the next big mob film like Goodfellas. But it really is its own beast. Because, I mean, Goodfellas, there's a lot of humor. There's a lot of authenticity. There's great characters. Just everything about Goodfellas works. That's still my favorite mob movie. This feels more like it's trying to tell a story. I mean, that does too, but in a true story. But, I mean, this feels like it's trying to be this big crime drama. Excuse me. I was just gonna say something else, but I lost my train of thought. Like the music, Tom Hokenborg. I love the music to this. It's this very somber, almost like Max Payne 2 cello, violin. Especially at the end when he says goodbye to Billy and we see the captions of everyone's sentences. It's this very heavy, dramatic, sort of epic music. I love it. I love the music. But it does feel like it's trying to be this very big, epic drama, whereas Goodfellas just felt natural. But I don't fault it for that because I do see it as a very good movie. We haven't had a true crime drama like this in years. I mean, around the same time as that, I guess you could say American Hustle, Wolf of Wall Street, which those aren't really gangster flicks. I mean, one is stock fraud, the other one is, con artists. But American Hustle is a perfect movie as well. I might even say American Hustle is a better made movie than this. But as, a crime film, like a gangster flick. We haven't had a movie like this probably since The Departed or even Casino. If I really had to... I mean, I'm looking at the ones I have here. I guess the closest would be Public Enemies. Not just because of Johnny Depp, but because it is kind of a bleak movie. I mean, this does have a very bleak feel to it. I mean, the cinematography, which was done by a name I'm not even gonna... Masanobu Takayanagi. I hope I got that right. It's this very almost like muted, bleak, like gray, overcast look throughout the entire movie. Even when the sun is out, it's just got this sort of almost black and white feel to it. And I would be black and white, but I mean just, you know, very pale. It's just kind of this overcasty look to it, very bleak. It is a very bleak movie. But, you know, I loved it. The performances are so strong. Sure, it might not be as factual as, say, Goodfellas. It's the closest we're going to get to factual as far as a Whitey Bulger story, because, I mean, this isn't very factual at all. In fact, this is just based on... This is more inspired by the story. This is based on the story. Sure, the personalities may not be 100% correct, but I think the events are enough correct to be a loyal enough film. You know, it says that he left Boston in 1995, and then we pick up in 2011 with the elevator door opening, but we only see like this much of Depp. With, you know, the beard, the Gilligan hat, the sort of white windbreaker, comes out into the parking garage, and the FBI is there, and he gets arrested. And even then, he was, 83? He was 83 at that time. Yeah, because 82, because 7 years later was when he got killed. I do wish we could have seen more of him like that, because he's been so leather jacket, tough, like just intimidating the whole movie. That to see him with a beard, like just this old man with like the Gilligan hat, just kind of giving up. But, you know, that scene when a lot of tough guy lines, like when he has to kill the prostitute stepdaughter, take her to the safe house, and he's like strangling her, and the camera just pans over to Stevie as he just kind of watches as she's you know, coughing out his name to help. And every once in a while we cut back to the guys being interrogated, older, like in the early 2000s. And, you know, it just cuts back to, like, Mr. Fleming, have you seen Mr. Bulger kill anybody? And it's just his reaction, just this somber reaction, after we just see Whitey kill his stepdaughter in front of him. I will say the whole part about the Highlight, like, getting involved in the Highlight racketeering, the hit on Roger Wheeler, and the part with Brian Halloran, played by Peter Skarsgård. I will say that is kind of a low point. It doesn't really explain a lot what's going on, because, you know, they give Skarsgård, whichever one, like $20,000 to not do a hit on the owner of Highlight, or yeah, like the owner of the Highlight Sport or whatever. But then Whitey's guy does it anyway, that he sees it on TV, that he goes to the FBI to tell on him. Connelly tells Whitey, that Whitey goes to kill Halloran in broad daylight with a shotgun and a pistol in a parking lot. I will say that's the only part that's sort of like the lull, or like the boring part, or like the out of place part would be like the whole highlight thing. But I do think it does blend sort of the gangster and kingpin story along with the FBI procedural. It mixes those two stories. I mean, it'd be like if, but without cutting out the rise and fall. Like picking up directly in like 1975 to his to his run, and then his arrest. I mean, like if Goodfellas told the story of Henry Hill when he got out of prison and then started selling cocaine, but then half of the movie was the FBI trying to catch him for selling cocaine. Kind of like that. So, which a lot of my gangster flicks don't really have like that sort of split time between the gangsters and law enforcement like this one does. I loved this movie. I loved it in theaters. I love Johnny Depp. I love all the performances in this, actually. Joel Edgerton is great. Cumberbatch is great. One of my favorite scenes is one of the last ones with, actually probably is my favorite scene when before Whitey leaves Boston for the last time, and he calls his brother Billy. And it's just Depp and Cumberbatch sort of saying goodbye to each other for the last time. These two brothers from two different worlds, straight politics and crooked crime. And then you have that music building up, and then we find out what happened to everybody. Like how all of Whitey's guys, like Flemmy got life. The other two got 4 to 6 years and are now free. Connelly got 40 years. I mean, going against the FBI, he got 40. And, then it shows him getting arrested. Of course, he got life and was ultimately killed. But, I love that moment between those two actors when they're talking on the phone, saying goodbye to each other. It's really the most tender moment we see from Johnny Depp, because he, other than when he's talking to his son, while he's still alive, but it's a movie that's full of intimidation and fear, just the badass performance the whole time. I've been going on for over a half hour now, but I loved this movie. I did place this in my top 10 best gangster flicks of all time. It's my favorite Johnny Depp movie. It's my favorite Johnny Depp performance. Whitey Bulger is, I think, one of the most interesting gangster figures to read about. If you're watching this, just keep in mind the personalities and the way everyone behaves is very Hollywood, and maybe the way a lot of events are done are sort of Hollywood and dramatized. But for the most part, the events, I think, are pretty correct as far as what happened, maybe not how they happened, but yeah, very, very strong movie. I would say the best gangster flick since at least The Departed. Going back as far back as 2006. I will say I do like The Irishman more, but that's a very different film. The Irishman is more Scorsese. This is more... I'll say this is more like Brian De Palma meets Michael Mann. Well, I could say Scott Cooper, but I didn't really know enough of his film. I haven't seen Hostiles with Christian Bale. I have seen Out of the Furnace with Christian Bale, but I don't remember much about it at all. I know he's a very bleak filmmaker, but I don't know. If you haven't seen this, definitely check it out. Especially if you miss those very strong Johnny Depp performances or miss very strong, powerful gangster flicks. Black Mass, definitely top 10 gangster flick of all time. I love it. Sorry it went on for so long. Sorry I started to sound like shit again, but yeah. I'm sure I'll get my automatic downvote like I always get within minutes of an upload. But anyway, thank you for watching.